Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And oftentimes in this segment, you guys know I'm very critical of other channels, I'm very critical of other people out there. But when people do good stuff, they do stuff that's good training information, good nutrition information, I'm going to go ahead and give a nod. And Jeremy Ethier, who's been so far a mixed bag, I think I've covered two of his videos in the past. I gave one a great review, and the other one, not so great of a review. Well, this one, I'm actually going to give him a nod of respect here. He actually did a good job on this, explaining how deloads work. And he didn't include deload in the title. He was talking about how to make more gains while doing less. And I'm going to disagree with that, because if you actually are going to benefit from deloads, you're not doing less, you're probably doing more in a shorter time frame, and then deloading to make up for it on the back end. Because usually deloads are associated with like a dual factor recovery model of training. Whereas what we think of as single factor recovery is that you train, recover, soup and compensate, and then come back and train again. And that's usually how most novice gains and noob gains happen in that pattern. But as you get more advanced, you're going to benefit more from actually overreaching beyond what you are physically capable of recovering from for a short period of time. So you actually are going to have to do more, and then you back down just a hair and then let yourself adapt to it and recover. And one of the things that I've noted in the past here, and some of this would apply to people following some of his programs, is that Jeremy has pretty good upper body development for a drug-free guy at his age and training experiences. His upper body's doing pretty good. Decently strong, decently developed. His lower body, his squats, his deadlifts are weak. He's lagging in that area. He's not very strong on his lower body stuff. And the program that I reviewed of his, which was a two-part review of his two parts of it, incidentally enough, I gave his upper body workout a decent nod, and his lower body one was kind of bad. It was lazy. It was lazy as shit. And that's why he's weak on the squat and the deadlift. So he's programming lazily. And so that's what's going on there. So let's come over to the point, though, of if you're going to run that sort of programming on lower body, you probably don't need a deload. But what I thought was interesting when he got over talking about the deloads, I was watching it and I was going to be like, I was going to say negative stuff until I got halfway into it. And it's because he segued into it, because he was saying, hey, if you're people at this level of development, you might need deloads more often. And then he says, now for novice lifters, you're going to deload. Because I was going to shut him down right there at that point. I was going to make in this video, hey, novice lifters don't deload. We do weight resets. We do weight resets. We do weight reductions when they hit a wall. All right? That's what we do. And it's because usually with novice lifters on novice programs, you're pushing them to get stronger or better or increase their workload in some way every single time they go to the gym. You don't ever let them do the same thing 2 workouts in a row. You are always increasing, because novices are capable of doing that. But when you overshoot their ability to increase, they hit a wall. In other words, you try to make them, push them harder than they're actually capable of growing, which can be hard to determine at times. They'll hit a wall, and then we have them back down. Well, he said for the novice lifter, when you reach that threshold, just reduce your weights 10%, which is standard. But here's the caveat I'm going to throw in there with that. You shouldn't necessarily need to tell novices that, and people say, well, why? That's what they need to do, right? Of course it's what they need to do. Novices are obviously, if they're going to make gains and if they have any sense, they're running a program written by someone else already anyways. All right, novice lifters, people with less than 1 year of serious training experience, and I mean serious training experience. And if you guys can't squat 315 for reps, you can't bench 225 for a couple reps, you're a novice, right? You're a novice. You haven't built a base yet. You're not qualified to write a program. Unless you're a woman, in which case you're good to go. If you're a guy, though, if you're a grown man, you're a 20-year-old male, 25-year-old male, that's weak sauce. You need to go back and follow a program written by someone else and build your base. Learn how to train from someone else. And so novice programs have those weight resets already written into them. I have several novice programs. That's how I program mine, exactly what he describes. But it's written into the program. You increase the weight every time you go to the gym on each exercise, a given amount, and it's prescribed differently for different exercises. And then when you start hitting failure, when you can no longer complete reps with their full range of motion or with good form anymore, you've hit a wall, and then you reduce the weight 10%, and then you repeat that effect. So it's a built-in deload already. It's a micro deload. It's a mini deload. More advanced lifters, we tend to do stuff like take full weeks or half weeks where we reduce our weights 50%. So in other words, if you're working with 500 pounds on your work sets for deadlifts, we'll reduce it to 250. If you're working with 450 for squats or 400 for squats, we'll drop it down to 200, 225 and reduce the volume. That's pretty standard for more advanced lifters. Or someone like me, what I do right now with my own concurrent periodization, every fourth or fifth week, I just skip my max effort days. And I do active recovery instead. I just do some body weight exercises, some abs, maybe a little bit of kettlebell work in place of my max effort lifts. Instead of coming in and hitting squat and deadlift and bench press and overhead press maxes, I do that for those days, and then I ease back into my dynamic work as normal. All right, and that's how I personally do my own deloads right now. But historically, on a lot of programs, you'll take anywhere from 1, 2 to maybe even 3 full sessions or 4 full sessions an entire week, to where you reduce everything. You cut it all in half. Right? You cut everything in half, the amount of work you're doing in half. Allow your body to recover, because that's ultimately what happens when you push beyond your ability to recover. That's what we do. Now, the other thing he pointed out, you pay attention as you get more advanced in your training age. You should pay attention to things like how your joints and connective tissue feel, how your energy feels. I'm gonna be honest though. For most people, if your lifestyle is on point, the vast majority of gym goers don't have enough gym time to dedicate themselves to where they're actually going to feel their energy run down, or they're going to reach a true overtrained state. They're just unlikely to do it because most casual gym goers they don't have enough work ethic to train that hard. And I don't mean doing a bunch of curls. I'm talking about they're not going to do that many sets of squats and deadlifts and really big, heavy structural loading exercises every week to where that's an issue. If they're getting fatigued, it's most likely something else going on in their life. They're either not sleeping enough, their diet's not on point, there's some other factor causing it. It probably isn't their training the majority of the time, or they're trying to jack themselves up on stems when they train, and then they're building a tolerance to it, or they miss a dose, or something happens with their pre-workouts or whatever stems that they're jacked up on, which I don't generally recommend. So what the other caveat I will throw in there with that is only thing I might say different is that a single tendon hurting is not indicative of needing a deload. That's an indicator that you might want to change exercise selection. Meaning, if your bicep tendons, this is a perfect example. This is one I run into all the time. I previously tore a bicep deadlifting, what was it, 15 years ago now? 15 years ago. So for me, that gets inflamed, but sometimes even my right one gets inflamed. So when I start to get that tendon inflammation, I don't necessarily deload automatically. I take chin-ups out of my routine. So if weighted chin-ups are causing it or weighted pull-ups, I go over to just barbell rows. And that's an acceptable substitute. Or if you're getting connective tissue tendonitis, pull out your small tricep exercises and just do presses. Like if you're doing extra tricep accessory work of some type, JM presses or press downs or whatever it is you happen to be doing, it might be time to cut those out and just coast for a bit on your main exercises. So things like that you can pay attention to, and a lot of that can just be an issue of cutting exercises out or swapping exercises because you're getting close to overuse injuries. You might not be reaching a full overreaching state yet. It could be an issue of a localized overuse injury that's going to occur due to localized inflammation from a movement pattern that's maybe rubbing a tendon the wrong way for too much total workload, and you need to adjust that one exercise. So that's a lot of times just a single tendon hurting. It might be time to just rotate your exercise selection. Again, for a little more advanced lifters. But if you start to get multiple ones, 2 different tendons in your body, that's, again, to me, a sign you need to deload. Or just that general fatigue mounting, or when you get to be a master's lifter, running really serious training like me, I just do them anyways. Every 4th or 5th week or so, I just deload my max effort work lately. Because it's not really a big deal. And he did point that out, that the data does seem to show that if you are pushing yourself hard enough to actually make adaptations and you're pushing your actual limits, the deload weeks, you don't actually seem to lose muscle or strength. The research doesn't seem to indicate it, and a lot of times you super compensate at the end and you come back even stronger with better performance than when you went in. But it depends on how hard you're pushing yourself. And as he said, if you're someone who hasn't built a strength base yet, you haven't built a base yet, you're just kind of going through the motions and you play at the gym, you're not going to actually benefit from it. It's usually when you're on a structured program and you've been pushing progression hard for a number of weeks, and maybe for someone who's not a real advanced lifter, it could be like as many as you've been pushing hard for 12 weeks. Like a lot of my intermediate block programming that I'll put out, I might have people deload after 12 weeks. So you run a 12-week set of blocks, 4 different blocks of 3-week mesocycles, and then a deload afterwards for 1 week, and then you rotate back into it again. So things like that are more common, depending again, and I like that he addressed that the way that we deload and the amount of time you need for deloads oftentimes depends on your training age, your strength levels, your experience, your overall lifestyle. There's a lot of factors involved determining when you should deload. But for most novice lifters, they don't need true deloads. They really don't. They just need a slight weight reduction. And what ends up happening is that their form cleans up. And for people need to remember, 90% effort actually produces maximum muscle growth. All the research over the years has shown that you can get nearly maximum adaptation out of 90% effort. But we're talking a real 90% effort. Like 90% effort is you keep adding weight on the squats and then you come in and you can't complete it anymore. The form breaks down. You start good morninging your last rep on the squat, right, on your last set, because you're pushing it too hard, harder than you can go, right? That's what we mean by going all the way. You can back that down 10%. So if you're doing that and you've got 275 on the bar and on your 5th set, because you're still a novice at that point, you can't really complete the reps. You're either getting pinned, you feel like it's a grinder, it's taking you 4 seconds to lock out a rep on the last set. You're at your threshold. You need to reduce that weight 10%. In that case, that 275 can be reduced about 25 pounds down to 250, and then you repeat the cycle again, right? And you'll actually grow and adapt just fine inside that window because your form will clean up and you're still going to be lifting relatively heavy. Like if 275 is too much on your last set, you're still working pretty hard at 250, right? You're still working hard enough to make gains off of. So all in all, I mean, I'm going to say it was a good video. Like I said, a couple minor points I might address with connective tissue and stuff, but those are really, really minor points. And all in all, I'm going to say the guy did a good job explaining this to beginners on understanding the basics of deloading. And I think it's a good introductory for them. So again, I'll give credit where credit is due here. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.